Welcome to the Barnegat Bay Watershed. It starts about 25 miles inland from the bay, and this is where the health of the bay begins. All of the rain that falls in the watershed eventually becomes part of the bay. We want to show you how important you are to the health of the Barnegat Bay. What you do out here determines the health of the bay for crabs, clams, fish, and humans. Filling in salt marshes and wetlands in the past for homes created the challenge we all face today as caretakers of the bay. Everything we do on the land, from the banks of the bay to many miles inland throughout the entire watershed, determines the present and future health of the bay. Do you know what a watershed is? And do you know your watershed address? New Jersey has many watersheds. However, the state is broken into 5 major areas. These areas are Upper Delaware, Lower Delaware, Passaic, Raritan, and Atlantic coastal regions. A watershed is the area of land that drains into a body of water, such as a river, lake, stream, or bay. The watershed includes both the flowing surface waters or waterway and the land area that drains into the waterway. Your watershed address is usually the closest waterway to your home, such as a small stream or lake.
An example of a watershed located in the Atlantic coastal region is the Barnegat Bay watershed. This watershed is primarily found in Ocean County and consists of 660 square miles. 590 million gallons of fresh water per day enter Barnegat Bay from the watershed. Over 450,000 people live within the Barnegat Bay watershed, and when summer comes, that population doubles. This area is called the Barnegat Bay watershed because all of the water within this area drains into the Barnegat Bay. From the Barnegat Bay, the water flows to the Atlantic Ocean. Barnegat Bay is an estuary which stretches from the Point Pleasant Canal in the north to Little Egg Harbor Inlet in the south. Do you know what an estuary is? An estuary is where fresh water, usually flowing from rivers, mixes with salt water from the ocean. An estuary must have a strong freshwater input. The main sources of fresh water to Barnegat Bay are the Metedeconk River, Kettle Creek, Toms River, Cedar Creek, Forked River, Mill Creek, West Creek, and Tuckerton Creek. As a commercial fisherman who works the Barnegat Bay, Joe Rizzo spends most days out on the water. He sees firsthand the variety of wildlife that call the bay home. Joe comes into direct contact with people who work on the bay each day and those who use it for recreation.
I'm a waterman on Barnegat Bay. I've been working the bay over 20 years. Barnegat Bay is a little unique from the other bays because you have both shoal water and deep water. We have quite a variety of waterfowl now in the wintertime: brant, black ducks, bufflehead. Of course, in the summertime comes, we've got quite a lot of fish now. We've got striped bass are quite numerous. We have fluke, weakfish, bluefish. We got a variety of crabs, blue claw crabs, and we have clams and conchs, scallops. Barnegat Bay is a natural nursery area for fish that come from the ocean and in through the inlet and have a place to spawn. And naturally, with the eelgrass, the small fish and crabs have a hiding place from natural predators. From the fall, from October to Memorial Day, it's a pretty nice atmosphere out in the bay. Just have a few baymen working, and after Memorial Day, you get a lot of sailboats, power boats, more jet skis. They like eating clams on a half shell and cooking up a dozen crabs or so, and we supply them with the fresh seafood.
Unfortunately, as the population in the watershed continues to grow, so do our environmental problems. One of the main sources of pollution is non-point source pollution, often called people pollution. This is partly because the Barnegat Bay watershed area connects thousands of people and miles of land together. Non-point source pollution comes from many diverse sources and is hard to control. In comparison, point source pollution is pollution that usually flows from a pipe coming from a particular building, such as a factory. You can identify the direct pollution source. Non-point source pollution is pollution caused by such things as lawn fertilizer, pet waste, soda cans, plastic garbage, or oil from cars that enter the storm drain system through runoff from rain and snowmelt. Once this water containing pollutants runs into the storm drains, it can travel into the surface waters, like streams, lakes, and rivers, and eventually reach the Barnegat Bay, and finally the ocean. Polluted water enters the bay so easily because the land within the watershed has been developed. Fields, forests, and other vegetation serve as filters for contaminated water and help to partially clean it by removing nutrients and pollutants before it reaches our drinking water and the bay. Every time a field or forest is paved over, the ground becomes impervious, not allowing water to soak into the ground, thus creating runoff. An example of an impervious surface is a black-topped parking lot. As a result, the polluted water has nowhere to go but into our waterways. There are many types of pollution impacting the watershed. The nutrients phosphorus and nitrogen found in fertilizers, sediments resulting from erosion, pesticides and herbicides used on lawns, gardens, and agricultural lands, salts from treating snow and ice-laden roads, toxic chemicals such as trace metals from incinerators and landfills are examples of non-point source pollution. Eutrophication is the process of adding extra nutrients, such as nitrates and phosphates, into the water. Excess nutrients can enter the watershed via point and non-point sources, from such practices as fertilizing your lawn, leaving pet waste on your lawn or streets, and malfunctioning septic systems. These extra nutrients can lead to an increase in microscopic plants, called algae, in the water that can harm fish and other organisms in the water. When these algae increase in number, they can turn the water brown, red, or green, and it is called an algal bloom. Another example of pollution is fecal coliform bacteria and other pathogens such as viruses caused by human and animal waste, including geese and dogs defecating on lawns. Pathogens are also a risk to human health because they can enter the food supply through the fish and shellfish that we consume. For example, hard clams living in areas with high fecal coliform bacteria in the water will have high concentrations in their bodies, and when people consume these contaminated shellfish, they may become ill. Runoff collects such pollutants as sediment, nutrients, trace metals, oxygen-demanding substances, garbage, and bacteria. Sediment is made up of tiny soil particles that are washed or blown into lakes and streams. Fine sediment can also transport other pollutants, including nutrients, trace metals, and hydrocarbons, which oil is made from, to nearby surface waters. These pollutants attach to the sediment particles. In urban and suburban areas, major sources of nutrients are organic matter, such as lawn clippings and leaves, and improper or excessive use of fertilizers and malfunctioning septic systems. Trace metals are commonly found in old paint, tires, lawn chemicals, and preservatives. In urban and suburban areas, pet waste, street litter, and organic matter such as grass clippings are examples of oxygen-demanding substances. The decomposition or breakdown of these items uses oxygen in the water, reducing the amount of oxygen available for fish and other aquatic organisms. Garbage, such as plastic bags, can kill animals, including sea turtles, who ingest the bags because the bags look like one of their natural foods, jellyfish. All these factors combined can result in habitat loss and degradation of our environment. And because the economy of the Barnegat Bay watershed depends greatly upon tourism, we must be very concerned about how our land uses affect water quality.
Behind me, you see a map of the Barnegat Bay watershed. A watershed is an area in which all the water flows to a given point. Therefore, we kind of talk about watersheds as integrating everything that happens within them. And you can measure that, the effects at the point where the watershed flows to. Non-point source pollution for many people is a new term. It's the type of pollution that comes from how we as human beings live our daily lives on the land. Everyone can have an impact on controlling non-point source pollution by doing such simple things as not over-fertilizing their lawn, not using too many pesticides, and being very careful how we manage our waste oil from our automobiles. When we build on the land, either by paving the land or even when we run heavy equipment over it and compact the surface, we prevent rainfall and snow from percolating into the groundwater. And when we do that, we change the natural condition. We increase the amount of water that runs off the land and reduce the amount of water that percolates down into the groundwater. We also have the tendency to carry pollutants more rapidly to our streams, and that's an undesirable outcome. Soil erosion has an impact on the species that inhabit the watershed and the bay environment. When soil erodes, more soil particles are carried into the water. This increases what we call the turbidity of the water, and when the turbidity increases, it reduces the amount of light that will penetrate in. When light can't penetrate as well into the water, it reduces the amount of submerged aquatic vegetation. Submerged aquatic vegetation is an important place for juvenile fish to live and eat.
An aquifer is porous underground rock or a rock formation that creates a natural underground reservoir holding groundwater.
That water is all flowing downhill, either towards a stream or in some cases directly towards the bay. The streams in the Barnegat Bay watershed get 90% of their total flow, total annual flow, from groundwater that's seeping into the channel, not from water that's running off the land. So controlling and protecting the quality of groundwater is very important both for our drinking water purposes as well as protecting stream water quality. The main areas where water seeps through the land and into the aquifer are called aquifer recharge areas. And we have to be very careful about the types of activities that we do on those. We would not even want to over-fertilize them because in fertilizer are such chemicals as nitrates, and nitrates into higher concentration can be a contaminant. 90% of the population that lives in the Barnegat Bay watershed gets its water supply from groundwater.
This may seem overwhelming to the average person, but don't worry because we're not alone in our battle. There are many groups and organizations who are responsible for the well-being of the watershed, including government and non-government groups. The Alliance for a Living Ocean conducts educational programs and monitors the water quality of Barnegat Bay. The Natural Lands Trust Program purchases lands that are environmentally sensitive natural areas or open spaces to protect farmland, water quality, wetlands, and other lands with unique or sensitive features. Nature centers educate the public and businesses about practicing low-maintenance landscaping, such as using fewer fertilizers, herbicides, and pesticides. Youth groups stencil storm drains and conduct cleanups in the watershed. In addition, many schools have started outdoor classrooms that allow children to be more involved in nature and tree planting. You can start one in your school.
Integrated pest management is a fancy name for a simple and logical approach to controlling pests in and around your home, often using alternatives to chemicals. Select appropriate plants and keep them healthy in order to reduce chances of pest attack. Consider removing weeds by hand from around the yard. Remove dead leaves and dying tree branches or shrubs from the landscape before disease organisms take over. Use beneficial insects to control pests by releasing predators such as lady beetles to feed on harmful pest insects like aphids. Hand-pick pests off vegetables and ornamentals. When pest populations build up to intolerable levels, use non-toxic or low-toxicity pesticides such as insecticidal soap or horticultural oil. Use only the amount of pesticide needed to do the job. And if you use a lawn service, ask them to use IPM.
As a freeholder from Ocean County, Jim Lacey understands the important role government has in educating the public about the watershed.
What government can do, especially county government, can bring many municipalities together. In Ocean County, we have some 33 municipalities. County government can bring them all together. It can be the clearinghouse for all information that can come out of the watershed. And with that, we go into educational processes. We can get grants from the federal government, either through the EPA, we can get it through other types of government that would allow us to do education for children. We know that if we start this at an early age with children, we will be able to essentially get them to make it a way of life. And government can play a role in that.
Of all the actions the government can undertake, one of the most important is to promote smart development patterns, densities, and management strategies to minimize stormwater runoff and associated pollutants. By establishing strict pollution laws and regulations, we can make it more expensive to pollute than not to pollute. This in turn will result in less pollution because people will take the cheaper alternative.
One issue that's most important is non-point source pollution. We all know that we all contribute to that, and government can get the word out so that we can stop this. Non-point source pollution is something as simple as your car dripping antifreeze, to putting too much fertilizer on your lawn, or not picking up after your dog. Government is able to get out there and educate people as to how to use fertilizers, how to pick up after the dog, when they should and why they should. If you have questions in your watershed, you can call the Department of Environmental Protection, the Environmental Protection Agency, which is the federal agency. You can call county planning. You can call the County Soil Conservation District. These are all groups of government that can help with questions that you may have. We even have the Barnegat Bay Estuary Program and also the Barnegat Bay Watershed and Estuary Foundation. All these groups can answer certain specific questions that you have or point you to the right government agency that can help with the question, and we can get that answer for you.
There are also many non-government organizations called NGOs that consist of volunteers working to protect the environment. NGOs can be extremely effective because they consist of people who are directly impacted by the problems they are addressing.
How can you make a difference? Become involved in your community. Here are some guidelines that you can follow to help protect the Barnegat Bay watershed. Know the facts on the acts. Read newspapers and magazines. Watch the news. Be aware of legislation, activities, or violations that affect the watershed. Right is might. You have incredible power at your fingertips. By writing to polluters and politicians, you can make them aware of your concerns. Write to newspaper editors too. Recycle and reuse. Buy products that can be recycled and reused. Avoid products which are used once and thrown away. Read between the lines. Watch out for misinformation about products that claim to be degradable and recyclable. Make sure the products are not more harmful to the environment because they promote one-use mentality or are not readily recycled. Conserve and reserve. Save energy. Carpool to work or take the bus. Keep the thermostat at 68 degrees. Keep lights and appliances off. When not in use, turn off the juice. Get toxics out of your home. Find alternatives to dangerous products which are used in your home, such as drain cleaners, disinfectants, and cleaners containing phosphates. Many of these products are harmful to your health as well as the environment. Reduce toxics on your turf. Runoff from pesticides and herbicides used in gardens and on lawns is harmful to our environment. Remember, the suffix "side" means killer. An environmentally friendly alternative, integrated pest management, emphasizes pest prevention and natural pest controls. You can make the difference. If you see someone offloading, dumping material into the woods, field, waterway, or shoreline, a chemical or oil spill anywhere, abandoned barrels or garbage in a forest, field, or near a waterway, someone discharging materials or liquids down a storm drain, report it by calling the local police department or NJDEP at 609-292-7172 or call the 24-hour hotline 1-877-WARN-DEP. Education is the answer. Pass along what you know to your friends, family, and co-workers. Get organized. Network with environmental groups and take action. Help your children form an environmental club in their school. Remember, you affect the watershed. If it goes down a drain, down a sewer, into a gutter, on a lawn, in the air, or leaks from a landfill, it may end up in your waterway or drinking water. Pollution is caused by a variety of factors, but we can take action to help. Just as millions of small individual actions can add up to harm the Barnegat Bay watershed or your watershed, millions of small, helpful actions, one or two by each of us, will have a very positive effect. We must take individual responsibility for the health of the Barnegat Bay watershed and all our watersheds. Don't depend on others. You and your neighbors are the guardians of Barnegat Bay. We must think wisely and change our daily habits. Long-range planning is not about future decisions, but rather making decisions for the future. Let's all start today, and tomorrow our waterways will be cleaner.